me okay. I'll have to do some audio tests. So, anyone watching, I guess I just need to know. Well, you wouldn't know if you can't hear me. So, I'll just assume that the audio is working.
Should be
Um,
working.
do a test.
I'll do it.
So, before we officially get into this, I'm going to do an audio test.
Yeah. Hold on. Still waiting for it to appear on your page here.
And so, let's see. Just testing to make sure that the audio is working for this.
Waiting for it to appear on. All right.
Test.
You're good.
All right, there goes. Okay. So, anyway, now that this is here, I want to talk a little bit about what we've been up to. So, we've been building what you've been looking at here. And so, we've been writing software, a lot of software. I'm tired. You can probably hear it in my voice. But there's a reason why I'm not showing my camera. The reason why I'm not showing my camera is partly just because I want to focus on what I've been working on. So, if those who are new to what I do, I run this company called Cloud Underground. It's a venture capital firm. It's an asset management company. I don't, there's a lot that we don't really talk about with it. We just do our stuff, serve our customers, and things like that. And before, we had gotten to a point to where, if you're trying to build something like software or products, it's a lot of work to try to do like everything at the same time. And so, what we've been trying to do is, serve our customers, make smart investments, and then also continue to keep our software going until basically it's something that's going to allow us to run our entire company. And the reason why that matters is because, when you're a new company, it can be really hard to figure out ways to support more and more and more companies as a growing business. And then there can come a time where it can become really kind of crushing and overwhelming to try to keep up with the amount of business that's coming in. But then because you have to keep it going because it's a company and business never ends, you want to be around for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 20 years, so then ultimately, we've gone from doing a lot of labor-based services to now doing what we're doing as of today is we actually built our own software platform, which we've always had a software platform. We've had our open source, but really it was just so complex that we had to really train people and have a really tight process for how people can get work done. And so now we've made it to where anyone can do the types of things that we do. And for example, we do a lot of just engineering with large pools of data and things like that. And so we made an agentic engineering game and exercise to learn more about things like, how these new technologies and things like that work. Where we made this digital assistant right here that is not necessarily what you'd expect. It's not your standard fare chat agent. Believe it or not, this is actually not a chat agent. It's a chat index. And what that means is, by what it's saying, building here is, I'll just show you what's happening. What you do is you put files inside of a folder just like this. And actually, it has a specific folder. So let me go ahead and show you what that looks like. So you can go and find some documents that you'd like, and then you move those documents uh, into the location where this thing is able to read files. So it has a little index, and basically you just keep a shortcut. But anyways, we have a whole system for just remembering like where you put your files to give this thing data. Anything you put in this folder and you hand over to this little chat index, it's even though it has some AI algorithms like associated with whatever's going on with it, it's actually mostly Python algorithms and like code algorithms that I wrote myself. So that what it's doing is it's working with an agentic process alongside like hard coded functions that I wrote, where in my team, because it's not just me, and also Laura's here too. Say hi, Laura.
Yes,
You need
hello
help.
everyone.
How did it feel to code functions?
Yeah, it was exciting. I mean, we've talked a lot about functions and serverless functions and a lot of the things we've done over the years, and so it's cool to make those things happen in
That's
real
right.
time.
So speaking of making things happen in real time, we actually have a whole business model, and normally we train these things to people. And it's not that we are going to stop training these things to people, but this book, Automate Boring Things, we have a framework that we teach for anyone who's trying to deliver services with us. And so we were like, well, for the first time, we can make our framework itself software, by making something that you hand all of the processes for your company, all the digital documents for your company. And while people still need to be trained, this is a fast forwarding thing where we can focus on finding specialists now. And specialists don't have to know everything about our unique process, because they can go and work with this thing. As you can see, our framework is quite long. This is how we wrote this framework. Yes, automate boring things, everyone. This is our lives. Everything in our lives revolves around this thing called automate boring things.
Which you've probably heard us talk about this if you've been around our ecosystem
That's
for
right.
long at all, because it's definitely something that we've, obviously been doing for almost the whole time we've had Cloud Underground. It's the basis of our business in a lot of ways.
That's right. And so to go with it, it teaches you how to set up basically a way to control your business with what's called a control matrix. And it goes into that sort of thing. And basically, this control matrix right here is what you go and you can basically build your entire business. And while this looks really boring, and our book is indeed called Automate Boring Things, it's got information in here for like whatever you're trying to set up or whatever. But anyways, that's just giving you an idea of what's going on here. So we take the data that we put into there, and whatever goes into there, that is usually something that was someone's job or something that someone's responsible for, or something that they have to know how to do.
Your compliance standards, who knows? Yeah.
Yeah, so exactly. So then between this book for telling you how the framework works, and then all of the data for that's unique to your company that you have to fill this out, and that's usually what we help people with, is filling out these things. And so if you're like a company who has to go to market, for example, then you have to do due diligence. Especially if you're working in some industries, not only will it help you, not get your customers' data breached, but it can also prevent things like jail time in like health industries and things like that. It's really important stuff. So, anyways, my background is especially in like security related things, so that I always think about that sort of a thing. So, anyways, now that this is up and running, I can ask it questions about this framework. What is automate boring things? Now, the thing about this, once again, just as a reminder, is this is actually designed to train this. So, really, this isn't necessarily where you come to ask certain questions. What you do is you come here to, either teach your environment things, because every time you talk to this little chat window, it teaches, it starts building out a little, I don't know, a thing. And so then there actually is an agent. And in our case, we decided to not have your standard agent, but we created a software language, where basically an agentic process with this agent system, you can give it permission to control your server or your host, and then it'll just run things. So we use what's called policy management to create guardrails for that sort of a thing. And how do you know how to make policies for that? With things like automate boring things. Oh, but that sounds really hard and all that good stuff. It is kind of a hard process, but it's actually easier and more streamlined than a lot of the conventional processes where you're doing things in a less sort of like software driven way, because at least this is automated. You're going to be working with boring things like this anyways. If you're trying to go to market, you're going to have to think about things like, if you want to go and, for example, we'll use SOC 2 as a foundation to help companies figure out like how to get started. And really this helps you make your company more passive overall, so that you can focus less on your pipeline and all of these little intricate tasks, and then put all the little intricate tasks and playbooks and things like that, where then you can come in here and this will come and do things for you. So right now I already have this answering a question for me, but I guess what I could show after this thing answers or whatever, the way that we made it to where that you can train this thing is, you come and you talk to this thing, and it has a game called Dungeons and Desktops. And Dungeons and Desktops is a structured training game where it's a Dungeons and Desktop style game where, by it going and having you go through this experience, it'll give you assignments and make it feel like a game to train this thing and teach it your learning style, things that you do, and then you can use the Dungeons and Desktops framework to build ideas and technologies, and all of it keeps your data private by default unless you decide to. So we use Olama Mistral by default, but it works with any AI because, once again, I said the AI is not the part that we made. We wrote all of these other algorithms and these other things because everyone else is doing the AI already. Why do we need to reinvent a wheel when we can basically make it work with any of the other known AIs instead of making our own AI, which made way more sense, especially for what we're trying to do, because this is for building like living autonomous environments. Um, and it's not just an idea, it's real. Now, of course, this is a demo environment, so really this is designed to have lots of hardware and resources. So the other thing that's going on here is, because this is an indexing engine, what's happening is this builds a database for you that's portable. So the database that this builds, you can actually hand over to this, and it has what's called a LangGraph API. And then that database can be used to basically make the data that's being indexed here uh, work where you have a LangGraph API accessible database, and then this builds that database. So for everything that it does, everything you do with it, the Dungeons and Desktops, it's actually building a desktop in the background, and you can use that desktop with your favorite AI solutions as well. So if you are building an MVP or a certain project, if you were to start and do certain things this way, everything, once again, even simply just throwing files in here while this is running, you don't even have to necessarily talk to it. You just have to have it running and then load this up with files. And it will just start building a database for you. And then you can use that for like your other software engineering projects, for example. And so then you could go and take that to Gemini or ChatGPT. Or for that matter, because it is agentic, it uses Olama, you can actually integrate Gemini or ChatGPT or whatever your favorite. I don't know. People love the AI stuff, so that's kind of up to you if that's something that you're going to do. But as you can see, the world is not just about AI. Look at how much is possible with like the AI being an afterthought and being commoditized. We decided to treat AI more like a commodity, and we just decided to act. What if we just assume that the world's going in that direction and just treat it for the fact that, like, okay, AI is not the big thing. It's just everywhere, and we should just assume that it's just kind of like there. And so then, with that in mind, because we have all these resources available to us, let's see. Oh, I guess one thing that's interesting is I didn't really show you an example of the fact that this thing can do stuff. So let's say that you want to make sure Nmap is on here, and let's say you want to do a scan to see, maybe you're doing just to see what your ports are looking like. So you might say Nmap. Wait, so if you're trying to like set something up for some security goal or something like that, or doing just like some scans, you might go and do something like deploy a package. This is what it'll look like depending on what you're creating or installing. It'll go and tell you, what the results are and if that's in there. But if I go and if you're using this shell, because now what this is, because this is, think of this as more of like a coding shell. So instead of asking like questions, notice it says like enter your mission objective here is really you should be typing goals for what you're trying to build. So it has some examples of some queries that you can give it. So think of this as an agentic shell, and it's not an agentic chat window. If you think of it as an agentic chat window, it's very confusing. This is closer to like if there was a code language, like so it's actually called Appination, and it's like if there was an agentic Python, then this is like it. We made our own code language, and this is how it works. So we wanted to make it conversational in nature and make it like use structured language, like spoken word, and then we use learning language models to make that possible. And then learning language models, why we wrote a bunch of algorithms and things like that. So that's something that we're still improving. But for example, let's say that you want to scan local ports. It gives you an example of like how you would structure one of these shell commands. This is basically like this is what coding looks like with our shell with Appination. So this is a code language. So it's like you know, you want to be declarative. So right here, that's one declaration, and so we're going to be teaching how to do Appination and things like that as well as we're going. I'm sure it's not every day that someone just decides, "Wow, Python and Golang exist. Can I write my own agentic code language?" Yes. So that's what we did.
Only us, yeah.
And it's based on all the stuff that we've been doing for years. So you have to understand, like, for me, a lot of my research started in 2008, and then a lot of what I started building started in 2011. And a lot of what you're looking at here actually has genuine like components and resources built from since 2016. So if you're thinking, wow, how did you make this so fast? No, we didn't make this so fast. I've been working on the same thing for years. Laura's been working on it. We've had many people work on it. It's gone through many things. It's got lots of funding. It has customers. We live off of it. This is like our full time living. And I do nowadays have like side jobs and projects for my sanity. But this is my life. We make software, and this is our technology that we made. That's sort of like the grand expression of the fact that we made so many things that are so complicated that we're like, we're never going to be able to make documentation to teach people how to do all the things. And we're like, how can we make it so that people can do all the stuff that we did? Make a code language, make a conversational code language where then we teach people how to do this conversational code language, and then you can make buttons. And so you can talk to it and you can push buttons. So, anyways, so it says right here, so you declare you must use blah, 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 blah. Anyways, let's go ahead and hit send here so you can see the full shell command right here. And so this is what's called an Appination command. This is what's happening here. And it's going to do its thing now. Now, while that's doing that, some other things that I'll talk about, because this is actually designed for enterprises. And, at a glance, I think it's really important to understand, like, what in the world did we make? And, like, this thing's wild. So this is an enterprise tool. So not only is it designed to manage clusters at scale, at one point we realized that we could make our own fully scaled out and fully scalable hypervisor because we were originally using VMware for everything, and we wanted to figure out, can we replace VMware? And then we realized that, better yet, we don't necessarily need to replace VMware. Things that already have VMware, we started thinking, what if we took it a step further and said, what if things that already have something else, it's less work to just let it like take over? So this is basically a hypervisor environment that is a C2 layer. Now, if you don't know what a C2 layer is, C2 stands for command and control. Command and control, this is for like administrators. If you're a network engineer, a security engineer. Now you have to understand the kind of work I do. I do work for like large security environments, like power grid governance and security, military government things. So like if you're thinking in context of like where do I come up with these things? This is just kind of normal stuff in the world that I do, the kind of work I do in, you have to have requirements and meet regulations and have ways to, manage clusters at scale and do it in a safe and centralized way. Um, yeah, so there's a lot going on here. So long story short, this is where you scale virtual machines, but you actually wouldn't start by building a virtual machine here. This is where you go and you can set up policies. So see how the AI is thinking and it's doing some stuff. What you need to know is the AI is actually running commands. It's going there and it's running an nmap command for me. It's doing exactly what it says here. It's running this nmap command, and so not only is it doing its own processing that's taking time, whatever time that scan's taking, it's going to take the time that it needs to do because it's actually coding for me. So it's actually doing some work to generate a network report for me while I can now go do something else. So while it's doing that, I can go and do this. Instead of me having to Google how to do that nmap command, if I didn't know how to type the command right, it will go and troubleshoot trying to figure out how to do the command for me.
And that's why we call it conversational coding. So you can just kind of talk to it, tell it what you need it to do, and it'll go kind of figure it out.
Yes, exactly. And see how complex this environment here is. This is a very complex environment. Imagine having to understand all of this stuff and know exactly what's going on with all of these ins and odds and outs and who knows. Like, this is crazy. Let's just be honest. Look at this. So, maybe you want to learn about some policy stuff. So, we actually built an entire policy management infrastructure because imagine this thing going completely wild with no governance. Well, we actually have ways to limit its very behavior. We actually use what's called KubeWarden. So for anyone who knows what KubeWarden is, that's something that we have running in here. That is how it manages all of the policies and things like that. So if we go and take a look at, a lot of the items that we have this thing designed to be able to control. So this is going to let us control virtual machines, whether it's VMware, whether it's Proxmox, whether it's our environment. And ours primarily uses Harvester is primarily what we use. But you can see here, if I select installed apps, that we've got it's got a backup environment, uses Valero. So this is fully snapshot capable. It'll snapshot entire machines for you, and then it'll deploy entire machines. So it uses Harvester to deploy entire machines. It'll use Valero to make sure that all of those machines get backed up, and KubeWarden is how we're able to like govern whatever this is doing while it's doing whatever that coding, or I don't know, whatever it's doing. It's doing stuff. Um, so with that in mind, all of this is running on a development environment, mind you. This is all running in a development environment. I'm actually streaming from the very environment all of this is happening on, which also could be causing some stuff. So I don't know if my stream is causing a little issue here. That could be the case. We can try
Too
it
much
again.
going on this machine.
Yeah. So, anyways, there's a whole lot going on. So, anyways, the whole idea here then is before you go and send virtual machines here, it's actually designed where this whole thing is actually a hypervisor, whether you know it or not. And you can the best way to get started with virtual machines is to just go and start here. Now, just so that you know, this what you're looking at here, we actually had to completely like do some crazy code stuff and put a back end tunneling service in the back end of all this and make it like identity aware. That's very complex stuff, but just so that you know, what you're looking at is our more like managed service enterprise version of what we're doing. So this is an enterprise tool, and now a lot of this you can do with the open source version. And I will say the open source version has the KubeVirt manager and the virtual machine manager, and then that's it. It doesn't have this huge ecosystem back here, just because this whole thing back here requires an enterprise pipeline that we use, because we actually have an intelligence pipeline that we use to teach this thing. So believe it or not, we're actually constantly improving this in the background, and so that does mean that for the full-on intelligence kit, because it is a living thing in a weird way, I don't really know how to explain that. We're always training. That does cost money, and then that comes with that Rancher control center. Well, the Rancher is just the UI for that control configuration. But you can see here that now, I mean, if you're a small business, you like basically, I'll put it this way: until you have like 10 engineers or something like that, like this is a lot. This is like more for like large businesses, enterprises, government, compliance heavy, real strict requirement environments. Otherwise, our open source is all you need. Our open source, you can do more than what you need to be able to do to just like launch a business and monetize it.
Yeah.
So this is way overkill for a startup. Use our open source if you're like a new business or a startup. It's free, and then you don't have to worry about the cost of things. You don't have to worry about load balancing. So, anyways, you can see here that this actually has, for anyone who does like advanced engineering, this is capable of what's called SRIOV. Now, why does SRIOV matter? SRIOV is an input-output system that allows you to basically put inputs and outputs over a network. And in our case, our environment is uniquely equipped for you to be able to like. So, for example, let's say you have an SRIOV equipped host. I'm going to say this in like a really dumbed down way and completely oversimplify it. But imagine if you wanted to be able to like plug a graphics card into the cloud and you had all the hardware connectors and blah 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 blah. All the ratings are in place because ratings matter. Just because you can plug something in and have the software doesn't mean you have the hardware for it. So let's say the hardware is all there, and you want to plug a graphics card in with a certain type of enclosure, which usually uses like a Thunderbolt connection, for example. And there's 10 gigabyte ratings for anyone who knows what I'm talking about. Then you can plug that in, and then this uses what's called eBPF networking in the little back end. And at least the eBPF is part of our enterprise tier because there's not, I don't know, if you're not like, if, if you're not an enterprise, a lot of this is like
It's so
super
overkill.
overkill.
Yeah.
This is way overkill
Yeah.
if you're not like an enterprise.
Mhm.
But anyways, it means that then that graphics card can be added to devices on that network dynamically. And so that's also valuable for like if you're doing like agentic stuff right here. Like as you can see, like this slow thinking and stuff like that. That would benefit from me coming in and turning on this network and then using this to onboard a graphics card. And then that you'd suddenly see a dramatic performance difference. And so then, the performance comes down to your hardware and also the models you're choosing. I mentioned that you can use your own model. That's a thing that matters. There we go. Look at this. And speaking of which, there it goes, getting its results. Sometimes it'll come back and have issues with things. So just like a person who's trying to do things. But if you have good policy management in place, and so then basically that creates a guardrail system. And you can also configure this thing to try to like fight off threats. So what we do is we use Git to tell it what a healthy state looks like, and then it can analyze a Git repository and be like, okay, this is what a normal environment looks like. And let's say that suddenly some malware changes something in the environment. This can spot that and then go actively try to make the change and be like, oh, some malware is trying to attack your system, but I'm agentic and I'm just going to go and revert it back because it can do that. So someone would have to understand how to poison this index pool, and then they would have to understand how to like intercept its like transactions. I don't know. That'd be really hard for someone to figure out how to get around this thing. So we actually are going to release like a Guardian tier later on that where basically it's going to be optimized for that use case. And if you are an enterprise and you're trying to have like more responsive blue team, you do have to set up an agentic perimeter because you don't want to just put it right in the middle of like all of your production pipelines. And if it's not like gated with policies, like bad idea. So no bad ideas. Like honestly, we use what's called chaos engineering to make this work. If you've ever heard of chaos engineering, we actually use this to inject chaos. As a matter of fact, I can see if it'll do it right now. inject chaos for me. Let's inject chaos for me. I like I said, I'm training this thing more still, and our language is depends on me training this model further and further and further. So I'm training this thing. It's kind of like raising a baby, but it's a code language. It's a code language baby.
Like a yeah,
Code baby.
yeah, code baby.
Code baby. Oh my goodness, it's terrifying. Anyway, so what we do is it'll injecting chaos means that it's going to go and it's going to just like inject madness into the environment for us. Like it'll launch all kinds of things, and what it does is it's going to test the resilience of the environment. I could probably show you at a high level what's going on. So this is probably pretty. If you've never seen this sort of a thing, I bet this is interesting. Yeah, let me just put this in this corner here, and I'm going to say, oh no, I don't want this terminal. That's not what we want. We want. So let's see. So let me put this up here. So you can actually watch what it's doing by watching your processes. So let's see. So let's see if I can catch it before it's done thinking. So in terms of chaos injection, this will give me an idea of how to see what it's actually doing. And mind you, I have no idea what's going to happen. It might not be for the best because, well, I mean, it's an environment for this, so it's fine if it destroys itself. But the chaos tests are there to help you understand like how well are you able to recover from impacts and things like that, bugs. So what it does is it's going to go look for bugs. It's going to look for and it'll tell you if it's not willing to do it. It might reject me. It's going to still do a scan. Let's see what it says. It says it's here to assist. So this is a guardrail that I have so that it won't necessarily just do things. Yeah, okay. So this is something I spent a lot of time on making sure that it would do. So if you look at this here, I designed it so that it's not going to just do things. It can. And
It's
so in
gonna
this case,
ask you for permission first, kind of a thing.
yeah. So here it's doing an evaluation. Like, are you sure? Like, okay. So it's like I'm here to assist you, but it's important to clarify that I'm designed to help you manage your tasks and execute these safely. Introducing chaos without proper context or planning can potentially cause issues. Now, see, this is chaos engineering. Chaos engineering means it can't be random. It's even telling you right here. It's telling you how you need to think about this. And so this is what I've been working on. Chaos engineering is how I spent a lot of time building a lot of this. And people ask, well, but Nathan, how do you avoid the risk of, I don't know, AI stuff? Nato, how do you avoid MCP server chaos? People want to use MCP servers and they want to let them run wild. Well, start injecting chaos into chaos tests. If you're not doing chaos tests, then you should really think a whole lot about your choices. So anyways, we've decided to create a structured way to do that. And hey, here it is. It's even telling you how to do it. It says, however, if you still wish to proceed, you can use this command. So it's saying that either I can, go and do this here myself. As a matter of fact, it's even giving me a way to set up a button. So it's this JSON frame right here is how it sets up these buttons. So it says you can do that. Yes. So then please note that yeah, if it wants me to do it, it'll do it for us too. So with that being said, the last thing that's also interesting is because this is like a heavily automated environment, like I said, a lot of this is actual just like engineering. Oh, also notice you can see the CPU went down now that it's done thinking. It really gets that thing thinking. If I ask it a question here, you'll see those numbers really dance too. So like if I'm like automate boring things refers to Oh yeah, this will be applied to blah 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 blah. Well, anyway, so then we can say, how can I set up a? Well, I don't know. I want to play Dungeons and Desktops. If you tell it you want to play Dungeons and Desktops, it goes into training mode. Training mode, it starts becoming a game master, and then you're in a game. You actually have to quit the chat for it to exit game master mode. So the minute you say you want to play, you want to play Dungeons and Desktops,
Now it's your
it's
dungeon master.
it's automated. So I'm a data
Game
engineer
master.
first. I've done data engineering since like 2009. After I started doing some malware analysis before that. But anyways, so Dungeons and Desktops is turns data engineering into a game, and that's why it also helps build that database. You play the game, it builds up that database. You can use the database that's built from this whole thing with other AIs. Hint, hint, reminder, reminder. It'll work with Google AI Studio, all kinds of things like that. You've got all kinds of options. And this is for you to build and engineer your own custom data sets without knowing how to do it. See, right here, you don't have to know the data engineering for all of this right here. It's going to sit here and it's going to just make a game, and it's going to tell you, and you can turn stuff in because it'll be able to read files that you turn in. So while it's doing that, one thing that I want you to know is that what if you wanted to go run some experiments in here? You can actually host full on websites and all kinds of stuff. So it has an entire ops center, and you can go and the ops center, you can go and test a website, you can go and test a project, an app, but you can go and click on this, and what'll happen is it will go and it will build you a CI/CD environment, and it'll tell you if it worked. Which right here it shows that it did work, and it says that we can go access this location here, and so then that's going to let us, if we wanted to go and that's the IP address that it would load whatever app at is port 1060. Now, if I go to access, there's a little CLI for it, and it has Docker. So you can see, this is just a fresh shell, just a separate environment that is just its own self-contained Docker environment right here. On top of all these other things, it's completely separate and isolated from the other environment. And this might feel a little bit like Inception, but let me show you what I mean by this. Not that window. Well, anyways, we're gonna end the stream in a moment here, but let me show you the rest of what I'm getting at here. I'm gonna close this big window. Okay, so really, I guess all you're going to get out of seeing this is that I typed the same command, and you can see a bunch of results here. Where I typed the same command here, and you can see that there are no results, and it's a completely separate Docker environment. If you've used Docker before, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't used Docker before, then you don't know what I'm talking about. But anyways, the whole idea is that it works that way. And another thing that's interesting to go with that is because it does have Kubernetes in it as well, which it's also designed to help you deploy to Kubernetes. Then it even has a shell that's fully equipped for that as well, which it has a package manager. The package manager that talks to Kubernetes is capable of air gapping to Kubernetes. And, for example, you could type, it actually uses Zarf, and it will there's Zarf. It shows that it's got all the different Zarf commands. But the other thing that's interesting is if you type kubectl get all Just to give you an idea, it has an entire Kubernetes environment in here, and it's huge. Like in the this is the enterprise version of our software, by the way. If you're not an enterprise, it doesn't really make much sense to have all. This is way too much to have if you're not. If you don't have a reason for this, this doesn't make really much sense to have this. So just understand that this is a very much so a business tool. You wouldn't just be like playing around with this like for fun
Yeah.
unless you're like,
Serious engineers.
and I'm sure someone out there thinks it's fun, but like for the most part, like someone's got to like pay you to not to do this kind of thing. Unless there's enthusiasts of the world, yes, don't get me wrong, but there you have it. So that like this is a fully secured tunnel pipeline. It's fully managed with like policy management, and this is actually available as of today. Right now, you can only get it by going through Laura and I. We're going to be releasing a affordable like tier that's you know pretty soon here, where you can just download something. We're trying to figure out what the pricing is because it costs us money to host our SaaS version of the service. So our product right now is a Forge, where we just make a custom environment with this software for you, and it lets you have, your LangGraph API, Appination, the ability to go and control environments. It lets you have your hypervisor, the hypervisor center to control them all.
Yeah.
Hypervisor management center that also manages containers. You can manage all kinds of containers, ranging from Kubernetes to Docker. Lets you do air gapping, and also it's organized for compliance first. So, we focus on your requirements first, which is, if you are a company with incredibly complex requirements and all that good stuff, and you have compliance needs and things like that, or if you're trying to if you're trying to become one of those more mature businesses, and you're looking to get started with SOC 2 compliance, and you already know you want SOC 2 compliance, we do use SOC 2 compliance as a baseline to give companies like, what's a great way to get started with this. uh, you know I compliance isn't security, but compliance is a foundation, and it helps you understand that you're meeting requirements and things where you're at least meeting the value of avoiding fines and having your company well organized and all that good stuff. And then as time goes on, you're going to end up getting like more mature other security tools. And for security stuff, it's like you're going to have SIM tools you're going to integrate into these things and stuff like that. So it's got ways to send its logs over to an observability platform. So it'll integrate with whatever your preferred observability technologies are. It has actually has an integration built for that as well. Without me going too much crazier, let's see, what do I have running on here that I could? I do have. Let's see, is it going to do it? It's going to be at port 3. Yeah.
Cool.
This is a thing that you on the enterprise version. It's a little more streamlined, but let's see, admin. All right, and I've been doing this for way too long, so I'm going to get off this in a bit here. But we have our classic dashboard here that we've set up. That this isn't going away. We're going to be making some big changes to the open source Underground Nexus. Heads up to anyone who uses the open source Underground Nexus. It's about to undergo like a huge
Some
overhaul.
Big changes.
Let me see. I'm actually testing that update now. Which by tomorrow you're going to see some pretty big changes. So maybe what I'll say is, if you're getting bugs with the Underground Nexus today, come to the DevSecOps Dojo and talk to us. I'm actually making some changes. It shouldn't last too long if there's like a little quirk, because I test. So if there's something off, it shouldn't last longer than like 15 minutes, maybe an hour. if I'm just trying, like I'm doing some debugging. What I'm doing is we took the entire underground nexus and we've been rewriting the entire foundation of it from ground up just to make sure that it's sound and ready for long-term deployment. Um, yeah, we've done a lot. So anyway, I digress. You can see clearly here that it's most certainly working anyway. And then it lets you integrate whatever your observability technologies are here. It has a section already built for that where you can come in here, set up all your integrations. It's already got data coming in here from whatever's going on with that configuration. You have to like go in there and do the stuff, but yeah. Anyway, it's got says if you run a test here, it should say that it works. There you go. There you go. So, anyways, now you've seen way too much, and I've gone over this for way too long. You've seen we've got crazy policy management. We've got the ability to manage virtual machines at scale. We have basically an automated suite here, which this thing actually also lets you add new buttons where you can make custom buttons. We're making a button profile builder too, so that you can build playbooks and then have playbooks that have button profiles to go with them. These buttons are designed to do anything you want them to. You can have them control like your entire company basically. Like you can make because it can be configured to work like a person and you use policies to manage it. Then set up your doppelganger, give it access to the things you want it to have access to, and then if you decide one day that you want to just got all the policies in place to feel free just letting it just like controlling a few things that are safe for it to control, then just let it run. Just let it run and do its thing. It'll fight malware for you. It'll do all kinds of random things to help you run your business.
Magic buttons.
Buttons. And so, anyways, there you have it. This is what we've been working on. It's pretty insane. That's right. You literally just you teach it. You can be a data engineer just by putting files in a folder and clicking a button. Wow.
Yes.
And then it does hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of steps worth of engineering for you that you never will have to know, including making a database for you. So you can be a database engineer without even knowing how to make a database by just adding files to this. And then boom, I'll show you the last part and then I'm gone. And then it makes this data, boom, now there's your database right there. You got this SQL Lite database right here. And you can go take this database, use it for whatever you want, build different data sets, build diverse data sets, build RAG data sets with data sets. Anyways, I digress. I hope everyone's having a great day, and I am going to end the stream.